Adebayo grew up believing his father's farmland was a blessing from the gods. The land stretched wide beyond the stream, with palm trees swaying in the soft wind and rich soil that yielded yam, cassava, and maize. His father, Baba Alemu, always said the land would feed the family for generations. Every planting season, Adebayo walked beside his younger brothers, Tond and Deo, under the hot sun. Their laughter filled the air as they teased each other about who could dig faster. Baba Alemu would smile, watching them with pride, and often said, "A family that works together will never go hungry." Those words stayed in Adebayo's heart, though he never imagined how deeply they would be tested one day. When Baba Alemu fell ill, the farm became quiet. The sound of his cough replaced the song of the hoe and the laughter of his sons. One evening, he called his children to his bedside. "My sons," he said weakly, "this land has fed us, and it will feed your children. Promise me you will share it in peace." They all nodded, their eyes wet with tears. Even Tond, the most stubborn, agreed without argument. When Baba Alemu took his last breath that night, his words echoed in the hearts of his children like a gentle wind that refused to fade. But promises made in tears are easily forgotten when greed finds a way into the heart. After Baba Alemu's burial, the family tried to return to normal life. The farm still stood strong, waiting for their hands. Adebayo, being the eldest, took charge and made sure everyone worked together. For a while, things were peaceful. Tond and Deo respected him and followed his lead. But as months passed, small cracks began to show. Tond started to complain that he worked harder than the rest. Deo, the youngest, felt his voice didn't matter. Words that once built love slowly turned into words that built walls. Adebayo tried to remind them of their father's words, but they had started to fade like footprints after rain. One afternoon, after a long day on the farm, Tond said to Adebayo, "Brother, you act as if this land belongs to you alone." Adebayo looked at him with surprise. "What are you saying, Tond? We all share it." But Tond shook his head. "You make the decisions. You choose where to plant, when to harvest, and even how to sell. I will no longer take your orders." Deo, unsure of what to say, watched quietly as the two brothers walked away from each other. That night, silence filled the house where laughter once lived. The hidden seed of greed had started to grow. By the next planting season, the brothers no longer worked side by side. Adebayo took one half of the land, while Tond claimed the other. Deo tried to move between them, helping one brother in the morning and the other in the evening. But peace was gone. The villagers noticed the change and whispered among themselves. "The sons of Baba Alemu are now enemies," they said. Even Mama Monarchy, their mother, grew tired and worried. "My sons," she begged, "you are brothers, not strangers. Your father's spirit will not rest seeing this." But Adebayo and Tond turned away, their hearts too proud to listen. When harvest time came, Tond's crops did not grow well. The rain had been heavy, and half his portion was flooded. Adebayo's side, however, produced plenty. Instead of helping his brother, Adebayo celebrated his success. Tond felt shame and anger burning in his chest. He went to Deo that night and said, "Brother, can you see how Adebayo mocks me? I will not take it anymore." Deo tried to calm him, saying, "Let us speak to the elders." But Tond refused. He believed strength, not wisdom, would bring him respect. That choice would soon tear the family apart even more. Tond's anger grew with each passing day. He accused Adebayo of taking the better portion of land on purpose. Adebayo laughed bitterly and said, "If your hands were strong and your heart pure, your land would bless you." Those words were like fire poured on dry grass. Tond shouted, "You will regret those words, Adebayo," and walked away. Mama Monarchy cried as she watched her sons turn their backs on each other. Deo begged them both to stop, but his voice was small compared to their pride. The next day, Tond went to the village head's house and made a complaint. He claimed that Adebayo had cheated him out of his rightful share. The village head, an old man named Boba Tolu, called both brothers to settle the matter. "My sons," he said softly, "your father was my friend. He trusted me to guide you if there was ever trouble. Why bring shame upon his name?" But instead of listening, they argued before him. Boba Tolu shook his head and said, "Greed blinds a man faster than darkness." He told them to go home and make peace, but neither man was ready to forgive. As days passed, Mama Monarch's health began to fail. The weight of her son's quarrel pressed heavily on her heart. She stopped eating and spent her days sitting by the window, staring at the empty yard where her children once played. Deo, who still moved between his brothers, saw her pain and decided to act. He went to town and said, "Our mother is sick because of us. Will you not see her?" Ton frowned. "I will not step into that house while Adebayo is there." Deo then went to Adebayo, who also refused. "He brought this on himself," Adebayo said coldly. When Mama Monarchy heard their replies, tears rolled down her face. "Oh, my children," she whispered, "what is land compared to love? What is wealth compared to peace?" That night, her heart gave up. When she died, the brothers were called home. They met for the first time in months, standing over her lifeless body. Deo wept loudly, but Adebayo and Ton stood in silence, their hearts heavy with guilt. Yet even in grief, pride held them apart. After their mother's burial, the sky darkened with heavy rain. The wind blew fiercely, tearing branches from trees. The storm came suddenly, washing through the village like a curse. The brothers' farmlands were hit the hardest. The stream that marked their boundary overflowed, washing away crops and fences. When the storm ended, both brothers stood on the muddy ground, staring at what was left. The once fertile land was now bare. Adebayo fell to his knees, his hands trembling. Ton, standing nearby, said bitterly, "Now none of us has anything." For the first time, Adebayo looked at his brother not as an enemy but as a fellow sufferer. "Maybe this is the gods teaching us a lesson," he said quietly. Ton didn't reply, but his anger began to cool. The villagers whispered that the ancestors had punished them for disobeying their father's last wish. Boba Tolu sent for both brothers and told them, "Land can be rebuilt, but a broken family takes longer to heal. You must learn before it is too late." Boba Tolu called a meeting of the elders and the two brothers. The old men sat in a circle under the big Iroko tree. The air was still, and even the birds seemed to listen. Boba Tolu began, "When a man fights his brother over land, he digs two graves, one for love and one for peace." He turned to Adebayo and turned. "Your father left you land, not war. Your mother left you love, not tears. Will you waste both gifts?" The brothers bowed their heads in shame. Deo, standing beside them, said, "Elders, help my brothers find peace." The elders nodded. They decided that the brothers should work together to restore the farm. "Let your sweat mix again on the same soil," Boba Tolu said. "Only then will the land forgive you." The brothers agreed, though silently. It was the first step back toward unity. The next morning, Adebayo arrived early at the farm with his hoe. Not long after, Ton joined him. They did not speak at first, but the sound of their hoe striking the soil brought back old memories. Deo came with food and water, smiling quietly. Days turned into weeks as they walked side by side again. Slowly, new crops began to grow, and the land seemed to breathe again. The villagers noticed and were glad. One evening, as they rested under a tree, Adebayo said softly, "Ton, I was wrong to mock you." Ton looked at him and replied, "And I was wrong to fight you. I let pride blind me." They shook hands, and for the first time in a long while, they smiled at each other. The peace their father had prayed for was finally returning. Months passed, and the harvest was rich again. The land, once destroyed by their quarrel, now produced more than ever. The brothers decided to divide the harvest equally and give part of it to the poor. The villagers rejoiced and praised them for their unity. Baba Tolu came to bless them and said, "Now the spirit of your father and mother will rest in peace." Adebayo turned, and they repaired their mother's old house and built a small hut beside the farm in her memory. They worked, laughed, and ate together like before. The land that once caused pain had now become a symbol of forgiveness. It was as if the soil itself had healed their hearts. Years later, the brothers grew old. Their children now worked the same land and played together without division. The story of their quarrel became a lesson told to every young person in the village. Baba Tolu, now even older, would often say, "If the sons of Baba Alamu can find peace, any family can." Adebayo looked over the green field one morning and said to his brothers, "We fought over this land, but it was not the land that divided us, it was our hearts." Ton nodded. "And it was love that brought us back." Deo smiled. "May our children never repeat our mistakes." The three brothers stood side by side, watching the sun rise over the farm that once divided them but now united them forever. No matter how rich the land or how wide the farm, nothing grows where there is hatred. But where there is love, forgiveness, and unity, even dry soil will bloom again.